Hello everybody. Today I've got a great little drone here to review, made by a company called Tarot. And in full disclosure, this drone was sent to me by GearBest for review, so I didn't pay for it. They sent it to me for review. And GearBest is, of course, has a huge selection on electronic gadgets at wholesale prices with free shipping, so be sure to check them out. I'm really excited about this little guy because it's one of those micros, ultra micros, but a brush quadcopter. So, this is what I received. Opening the box, there is a little guy. Again, it is small, and we'll go through that a little bit. So in there you get a pre-built quadcopter, and this is great. I usually build these things myself, and it's so nice to actually receive one that's already built, in a little plastic bag. It comes with a set of propellers. Those are 3-inch propellers, a set of little tools in a bag, and then 2 manuals, and we'll go through those in a second. So size comparison, that little guy is tiny. Here's what I usually build. There's a 130 also. This is but the major difference is this is a brushed 130. This guy is a brushless 130. So as you can see, they're the same size, but they're in a very different class. This is the typical one that I fly and use, brushed. Slow, but not that slow. I love them. This guy is in a whole different class. It's a brushless quadcopter. So let's have a little look at the manual it comes with. And it's not a very extensive manual, but as you can see, that's how you can break it apart. It's all there, and then here's all the details about it. Okay, there we go. So the main features of this guy, if you look at it, it is brushless, carbon fiber frame, pre-built FPV camera right here, and that FPV camera it looks to be adjustable. Little landing feet over there. There seems to be a lost alarm buzzer over there. Feels very light, and it's already loaded with the FPV transmitter. It's a little antenna coming out there, and that I understand is where you change the FPV channel. So looking at its specs, it has the flight controller inside there is a custom flight controller for this copter, and if you look inside there, there's a port for LED lights, there's a port for the camera, there's a port for the FPV interface, meaning if I look up here, there's a little FPV transmitter at the top, which is inside a metal case actually, for a nice heat transfer into the body. So they thought about everything here. There's the little FPV transmitter, and that plugs in there. Then on the side here, it has a port. That big one there is a port for a PWM receiver. So it doesn't come with a receiver. You have to supply your own receiver. So PWM receiver there. It's got an I2C bus there. It's got an S bus, PPM, and LED. So what it does not have is a Spectrum satellite port. I can't see that. So the only thing that's going to work on this guy is either a S-bus, a PWM, or a PPM, CPPM controller. If you wanted to make Spectrum work on this, you can get that little converter. You get a Spectrum satellite to PPM converter, and that should work fine if you wanted to use Spectrum. But there's not a huge amount of space back there where you can install it, but it's not small. There's actually plenty of space back there to install the receiver, which you're going to have to install inside there. So going through the little quadcopter piece by piece here, it claims that it has manual and auto mode, meaning the software on there, you can, on channel 5, you can select either be in horizontal or self-leveling or not, so that you can use channel 5. So you need a 5-channel radio if you want to use that functionality. And then it goes into, it's brushless. It has 6 amp ESCs, turret ESCs, and people say, oh, it's only 6 amp. But if you look at these little motors, which are only 1104 4000 kV with 3-inch props, that is more than enough. I don't even think these motors will draw more than 4 amps. So 6 amp is plenty enough for that. They say that you can, of course, upgrade the motors. If you were a casual flyer, this would be perfect. If you wanted to take this thing into racing, probably you would want to upgrade this to 1105 or 1106 motors. They suggest the 1106 motors here to do a little bit more in terms of racing. So, but as it is, I think it's great. Let's look at a little bit the camera is a PAL camera. This version, you get them in NTSC or PAL. So that's a PAL camera in there. And it says it's a 300 milliwatt transmitter that's built in there. So that's pretty good. Here's the paperwork on that 300 milliwatt transmitter. Let's have a look at that. A lot of stuff. It claims it seems to be 32 channels, it says, and 7 to 26 volt. This is the actual FPV transmitter that's in there. And then looking at the little antenna they supplied, this is the actual FPV antenna. So it's a dipole, but I'm pretty sure you could install another antenna there if you wanted a bigger antenna. We'll see how this one performs, but I think it will be fine. That's there, and there's the channel. Yep, these switches here, you can set the channels, so it's nice and easy to access, and set the channels over there. So 300 milliwatt it claims. Then it's, in terms of battery, they suggest a 35C 450, 11 volts. So that's a 3S. I've got a 2S over here. I've got some 3S's. I'll probably just start off with a 2S like this, which mounts on top here. So I have some 2 and 3S's of these, 450. And that would mount on top there with a little antenna next to it here. And you can bring your antenna out the back. So that would be perfect for that, mounting that on there. So that's sort of a size of a battery we're talking about. Again, it's only S-bus and PPM. So that's one thing. You're not going to put a satellite in there, Spectrum satellite, unless you get the converter, like I said. The camera says it's a 520 TVL, which is more than enough resolution. And then let's go into the weight of it quickly. So if we were to weigh it, get that going. With that, it's only 81 grams. Wow, that is pretty light. I'm assuming 82 grams. I'm assuming once we add the receiver in there, which I have here, I'm going to use, in my case, I'm just going to use a cheap AC 410. But, if you chuck that on there, maybe it's 90 grams minus the plastic. And then if you put the battery on there, it's 128. Put them all together, it's 140. So I can see about 180 grams at the most once you got the upgraded battery, the propellers, the receiver, if you got all in there, it's probably going to be 180 grams. So it's very light. It's well under the requirement. Let's quickly check just the frame. So the bottom plate, it looks like, yep, it's about 2 millimeter, yep, 2 millimeter thickness there, the bottom plate. And that's also, it's a solid frame type, meaning the frame itself, and then it has this piece that bolts on the bottom there, that's 2 mil. Let's look at the top here, that's 1.5 mil, so 1.5 mil top plate and a 2 millimeter bottom plate, which is great. That is more than enough. The standoffs looks like M2 standoffs, 2M standoffs. Very nice, very, very well constructed. I'm really impressed with the construction of this, especially also the FPV receiver that's already built in there, and that's tied down. You can see it's bolted down in a metal case. That is really awesome. Plus then the flight controller that's in there, all protected. I can see this really, really being a little winner. So, you know, let's get that receiver in there. Oh, I wanted to check just one thing. I wanted to make sure about the little camera, if that is actually tiltable. And you know what? I think it is. Yep, absolutely. Look at that. You can actually tilt the little camera up and down the actual angle, and that is just awesome that they even managed to put that in there. That is really great. So there it is. Let's get that receiver in there and the props on and see how it goes. Okay, in terms of what's in the little bag over here that came with it, the utility bag, we can see that there's a strip, a Velcro strap, some foam, probably for mounting your receiver inside, some Velcro, probably for the battery, and then it comes with this little thing, which is great. That is a USB converter, or a USB, probably FTDI type converter, and cables, which you then can change configuration on the flight controller with. So I will see if it's clean flight or whether it is perhaps it is a more a CC3D based. We'll find that out and see how you communicate with it. And then here's the wires for connecting your controller as well, your receiver, I'm sorry, to your flight controller. That's in there for PWM, I can see, and then of course the wire that runs from this USB into the flight controller. And then here's all the little screws that you'll use to tighten the props on. And these props are, you know, 2 little screws per prop. So everything's here. It looks really awesome. Let's get it built and see how it goes. Okay, after I added the battery, I realized I had a bit of a problem. It wouldn't arm, and so I had to figure out how to connect the computer to it. Turns out next to this PWM there is a computer interface, and it did come with that little USB plug. So you simply remove that little pillar, plug in the wire, the provided wire, and plug it into you know, the little USB, and you install the drivers and connect it to your PC. And from that point onwards, I had access to clean flight. Yeah, once of course the software was successfully installed, you could see the driver over here. I'm using a Mac. On Windows it will be slightly different, but you need to see the actual serial port over here, and I can connect to it, and there is my little quadcopter. I'm pretty amazed that I could, you know, connect to it. It seems to be a 1.12 clean flight, and I'm really happy that it is clean flight. Just going through this, I see that the only change I had to make was this was set to S-Bus. And S-Bus, I had to change it to PPM because of course I installed a PPM. It is set up for voltage monitoring, and you know, most of the other functions are turned off. It's not one-stop enabled. I don't see that turn on, and I see don't spin the motors when armed. That is also turned on. In terms of failsafe, it's a normal land failsafe that's there. PID seems to have already been set over here, and they're using, it's been set to the multi-wii. I didn't want to change that. In terms of a receiver, that was all good. Under the modes, the only thing that was really set up, and that's per the documentation, was angle mode or not. Of course, I'm gonna go in here and add other things like the beeper and bring in a horizon mode, and see if that helps. So angle is the older version of horizon, but we'll work through that at a later stage. Apart from that, not much more has been enabled. It's pretty much a standard. So that's the software, and I'm really pleased to see that it is a clean flight based, and that it is actually working over there, and it really is nice to see that I could communicate with it. Okay, so after I finished building it, you know, and installing the little receiver, I added these little cable ties and tied the antennas to it, you know, the FPV antenna, and I just put a little bit of heat shrink around to hold the antennas out so they don't land up in the props, you know. It's going to get cut up if it goes into the prop. So a little trick there. The FPV, a little camera in front, is super. It looked really great, and the ability to change its angle is really awesome in something this small. The little opto 6 amp ESCs looks great. They're only 3S rated, so 2 to 3S rated, so this is not a 4S machine. And you know, the little motors, 4000 kV, those are pretty standard 1104s. They look awesome. So, you know, in my next video we'll fly it a little bit, but here is a little takeoff teaser.
Flight mode 3, flight mode 2, flight mode 1, flight mode 2.